The world at times feels overwhelmingly fast, like a rushing river, pulling us along whether we're ready or not. Days blend together in a haze of endless tasks, obligations, and expectations. We wake up, go through the motions, and fall into bed, only to wake up and do it all over again. In the process, it's so easy to forget what really matters. The small, quiet moments that bring true joy. The feeling of sunshine on your skin, the laughter of a loved one, or the tender gaze of a creature that trusts you without hesitation. For Sarah, this truth had been buried beneath layers of busyness for far too long. She had become one of those people, caught up in the relentless race to get ahead, to tick off another item on the endless to-do list. She had forgotten how to slow down, how to pause and just be. But all of that changed one rainy afternoon. It was the kind of gray, damp day that makes the world feel heavier, as though the sky itself is weighed down by the burdens of life. Sarah, in her usual rush, was hurrying home from work, her head down against the drizzle. She barely noticed the world around her, lost in thought, distracted by everything she had yet to do. Then, as she passed an alley, something caught her eye, a small movement, a flicker of something in the shadows. It could have been anything, but something about it made her stop. At first, she thought it was just another stray cat, looking for shelter from the storm. But when she looked closer, her heart caught in her throat. There, curled up in the corner, was a tiny kitten. She couldn't have been more than a few weeks old, her fur matted and soaked from the rain. She looked so fragile, as though the next gust of wind could carry her away. But it was her eyes that broke Sarah's heart. The deep, fearful eyes of a creature who had no one. They were wide, filled with uncertainty, but there was also something else. A silent plea for help. Sarah couldn't turn away. Without even thinking, she knelt down, her hands trembling as she reached out to the kitten. She could feel the weight of her tiny body, the warmth of her fur against her cold hands. The moment she lifted the kitten into her arms, the world seemed to shift. The rain, the cold, the rush of the day, it all disappeared. The only thing that mattered was this fragile creature in her arms, now purring softly, a sound so pure and simple it made Sarah's chest tighten. It was a moment of quiet surrender. For the first time in so long, Sarah felt a connection to something beyond herself. This little kitten, who had no name, no home, and no protection, had entrusted her with its fragile life. And in that moment, Sarah realized that she too was fragile, caught in a cycle of running and rushing, of never stopping to breathe. As Sarah held Luna, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace she hadn't known she needed. She had been too busy to notice the world's beauty, too distracted by the demands of her life. But Luna's tiny form in her arms reminded her of something essential, that love, kindness, and care were always there, waiting for her to see them. All it took was one moment, one simple act of compassion, to remind her of what truly mattered. With Luna gently nestled against her chest, Sarah walked home, each step feeling lighter, the burden of the day seeming less heavy. The rain had stopped, and for the first time, the world didn't seem so overwhelming. It felt manageable. Sarah realized, with a quiet clarity, that this tiny kitten had just changed her life in a way she hadn't even expected. She had found something she didn't even know she was searching for, a reminder to slow down, to breathe, to open her heart. In that moment, Sarah understood that everything would be different from now on. No matter what the future held, she was no longer alone in the world. Luna had given her the gift of presence, of love in its purest form, and together, they would face whatever came their way. And Sarah promised herself that she would never forget the lesson Luna had taught her, that sometimes, you have to stop running to truly find the beauty in the world. As the days passed, Sarah found herself growing more and more attached to Luna. It wasn't just that she had rescued the kitten from the street, or that Luna had become a small, comforting presence in her home. It was something deeper, something almost magical about the bond they shared. Luna was no longer just a kitten. She had become a constant in Sarah's life, a quiet companion who reminded her to embrace the world with open arms. Luna's playful spirit filled their home, transforming every corner of the apartment into a new adventure. In the mornings, Sarah would wake up to find Luna curled up next to her, her tiny body warm and comforting. It wasn't just a matter of Sarah waking up. It was a feeling of being anchored, of knowing that the day ahead would be filled with purpose, no matter how simple it seemed. Luna's presence gave her a sense of peace that Sarah hadn't realized she was missing until she had it. In the evenings, when Sarah would sit down to read or work, Luna would often jump into her lap, making herself comfortable in the quiet moments. It was as if Luna knew that the stillness of the night was when Sarah needed her the most. She would purr softly, her warmth spreading through Sarah like a balm, reminding her that even in the busiest moments, there was time to pause and breathe. Luna's curiosity, too, was contagious. Every day, the kitten would explore the apartment as if it were a vast, unexplored world. She would leap onto shelves, chasing after anything that moved, her eyes wide with excitement. Sarah couldn't help but smile at the joy Luna found in the simplest things: a crinkled piece of paper, a beam of sunlight streaming through the window, or the sound of a bird outside. In Luna, Sarah saw the world through fresh eyes, reminded of the wonders that had always been there, but had long been forgotten in the hustle of life. And yet, as much as Luna had changed Sarah's life, Sarah found herself changed by Luna as well. She began to find more joy in the little things she had once brushed past in the blur of her daily routine. A walk in the park became a chance to see the flowers blooming, the squirrels chasing each other through the trees, the way the light filtered through the leaves. Sarah found herself laughing more, her heart opening to the small moments of beauty that she had overlooked for so long. Luna's arrival had done something unexpected. It had made Sarah realize that she didn't need to be in control all the time. It was okay to slow down, to allow herself to simply be, to enjoy life without worrying about the next thing on the to-do list. Luna had taught Sarah to appreciate the moment, to find joy in the simplicity of being present, of sharing her life with another being who, like her, was just trying to navigate this world. One afternoon, as Sarah watched Luna chase a butterfly outside, her heart swelled with affection. It was as if the kitten, in all her innocence, had unlocked a part of Sarah that had been buried under years of stress and pressure. Luna was showing her how to embrace the world with wonder, to marvel at the beauty in every corner, no matter how small. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah and Luna became inseparable. The kitten had filled a void in Sarah's life that she hadn't even realized existed. And every day their bond grew stronger, as if fate had brought them together, not just for Sarah to rescue Luna, but for Luna to rescue Sarah in return. It was a quiet, unspoken connection, a promise that, no matter what, they would always have each other. As the months drifted by, Sarah found herself increasingly attuned to the simple pleasures of life, things she had once rushed past without a second thought. Luna's growth mirrored Sarah's own transformation. The kitten, once so fragile and small, was now a playful ball of energy, always exploring, always curious, and always finding joy in the tiniest of things. And as Luna's personality blossomed, so did Sarah's appreciation for the life they were building together. One sunny afternoon, Sarah decided to take Luna on one of their little adventures to the park. She had always been the type to keep to herself, to stay inside, wrapped in the safety of her routine. But Luna had this magical ability to make her step outside the box, to push her into the unknown and remind her of the joy that could be found in the most unexpected places. At the park, Luna ran ahead, her small paws carrying her across the grass with a carefree energy that was nothing short of contagious. Sarah laughed as she watched Luna chase after the birds, her little body darting in every direction, her tail held high, her eyes sparkling with excitement. The sight made Sarah's heart soar. She couldn't help but marvel at the simplicity of it all. Luna didn't worry about anything. She wasn't concerned about time or about the future. She lived fully in the moment, and in that moment, Sarah realized just how much she had been missing. It wasn't just the park that held new meaning. Each day with Luna felt like a reminder of life's beauty, and it often left Sarah with a deep sense of gratitude. Even the mundane moments, like sitting in silence on the couch with Luna curled up beside her, became something special. She'd never thought of herself as someone who needed another living being to make her feel whole. But with Luna, Sarah had come to understand something profound, that it's the connections we make with others, whether human or animal, that fill the spaces inside us. In those quiet moments, Luna's presence grounded Sarah. The kitten would nuzzle against her hand, her soft fur rubbing against Sarah's skin in a way that was comforting and tender. There was an unspoken trust between them, a trust that ran deeper than words. Luna didn't need to speak to tell Sarah how much she meant to her. Her purrs, her nuzzles, and the way she looked at Sarah with such affection said it all. And Sarah, in turn, found herself offering the same love back. A love that was unconditional and pure. One evening, as they sat together by the window, watching the sunset behind the trees, Sarah was struck by how much her life had changed. It had been so easy to get lost in the noise of her busy existence before. But now, with Luna by her side, everything felt quieter, simpler, and somehow more meaningful. The world outside seemed to fade into the background, and all that remained was the two of them, sharing this peaceful moment. Luna, still as playful as ever, stretched out in Sarah's lap, her little body curling into a perfect circle. Sarah ran her fingers through Luna's soft fur, feeling the warmth of the kitten's body, and in that moment, she felt a deep sense of connection to the world around her. It was as if Luna had opened a door to a part of herself that had been shut off for years, the part that longed for connection, for love, for the simplicity of being present in the moment. As the weeks continued to pass, Sarah found herself spending more time outside, exploring the world with Luna by her side. It was as if Luna had become her guide, showing her the beauty in the ordinary, the way the trees swayed in the wind, the way the light danced on the surface of a pond, the way the flowers bloomed in the spring. Luna had unlocked a deeper sense of wonder in Sarah, one that she had forgotten existed. In Luna, Sarah had found not just a pet, but a friend. A confidante and a companion on this journey called life. And every day their bond deepened, woven together by shared experiences, laughter, and a love that transcended words. As the years slipped by, the world around Sarah and Luna began to change in ways both subtle and profound. Sarah could no longer remember the person she had been before Luna's arrival. Before the kitten had gently unlocked a part of her heart she hadn't even realized was closed off. They had become a pair, a team, moving through life with a rhythm that was entirely their own. But of course, time didn't wait for anyone, and Luna, as much as Sarah tried to hold on to the carefree days of their youth, was growing older. Sarah could see the first signs of aging in Luna. The way her once shiny coat had lost some of its luster. The way her movements weren't quite as spry as they used to be. There were mornings when Luna would wake up a little slower, stretch a little longer, and Sarah's heart would ache, knowing that time was taking its toll. Still, Luna's spirit remained vibrant, unbroken. Her eyes, though they showed the wisdom of age, still gleamed with the same playfulness, the same curiosity that had first captivated Sarah's heart. Even as her body changed, Luna's soul seemed to stay the same, strong, unyielding, and filled with an unwavering love for Sarah. They continued their daily rituals, long walks, quiet moments on the couch, and those adventures to the park. Luna had learned to slow down a bit, but she still reveled in the simple joys of life. The way she would stretch in the sun, basking in its warmth, or the way she would playfully chase a ball of yarn, her paws batting at it in delight. But with each passing day, Sarah couldn't ignore the reality that Luna's time with her was finite. It wasn't something she liked to think about, but the truth lingered, always in the back of her mind. She didn't know how long they would have together, but she was determined to make every moment count. Every cuddle, every walk, every quiet evening spent watching the world from their window. It all became more precious with the passing of time. One crisp autumn evening, as they sat together by the fire, Luna resting peacefully in Sarah's lap, Sarah reflected on how much they had been through together. They had faced everything life had thrown their way, side by side, and in those moments of struggle, their bond had only grown stronger. Sarah had never known that a creature so small could become such a source of strength and comfort. And yet, in the midst of these quiet reflections, there was a sense of peace. Sarah knew that, no matter what happened in the future, Luna had given her the gift of unconditional love, something that transcended time. It was a love that had no end, no expiration date, a love that was not bound by the limits of the body, but by the bond they had forged over the years. She couldn't stop time, but she could cherish the present. She could be present for every moment they had left together, no matter how small. She could make sure that Luna's final years were filled with the same love and joy that had defined their life together. One day, when the inevitable came, when Luna's light finally began to fade, Sarah knew she would be ready. She would carry the lessons Luna had taught her deep within her heart, the importance of living in the moment, of finding beauty in the small things, and most of all, of loving without hesitation. But for now, Luna was still there, her purring filling the room as they sat together in the warmth of their little home. And in that moment, that was all that mattered. They had each other. And that was enough. The seasons continued to shift, and with them, the bond between Sarah and Luna only deepened. It was as if they were growing older together, learning from one another in quiet, meaningful ways. Luna's fur had become grayer with time, but her spirit remained youthful, vibrant. Sarah could still see glimpses of the energetic kitten she had once rescued, the mischievous glint in her eyes, the way she would chase after falling leaves or leap at a bird on the horizon. Those moments were bittersweet as they reminded Sarah of just how much time had passed. Yet, in the face of Luna's aging, there was no sadness in Sarah's heart, only gratitude. Luna had taught her so much about the importance of cherishing the present, of enjoying life, not because of what we might gain from it, but simply for the joy it brings. They had built a life filled with shared adventures, quiet nights, and countless memories, and that was more than enough. One day, Sarah decided to take Luna on one of their favorite excursions, a visit to the beach. She packed a picnic basket, grabbed a blanket, and set off with Luna in tow. It had become a tradition of sorts, a ritual that both of them had come to love. Luna would run along the shore, her paws sinking into the soft sand, chasing after the waves as they lapped at her tiny feet. Sarah would follow, laughing as Luna darted in and out of the water, her fur wet but her joy undiminished. There was something magical about those moments at the beach. As Sarah watched Luna frolic in the waves, her heart swelled with a deep sense of peace and contentment. She had come to understand that life was not about what we could hold on to or collect, but about the experiences we shared, the moments of pure joy, the connections that made us feel alive. And in those moments with Luna, Sarah felt more alive than she had in a long time. The world seemed to fall away, and it was just the two of them, in their own little universe of love and trust. As Luna ran along the shoreline, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had spent so many years focused on work, on the endless to-do lists that never seemed to end, on chasing success and approval. But now, as she watched Luna chase after seagulls, she realized that the true treasures of life were the small moments, the shared glances, the quiet walks, the laughter that filled the air like music. Luna was teaching Sarah, once again, how to live fully, to embrace the beauty of simplicity. The day was perfect, and as the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, Sarah sat on the blanket, Luna resting beside her. There were no words needed. Their bond spoke for itself. The waves crashed gently against the shore, and the sound was like a lullaby, a reminder that life was fleeting but beautiful. As they packed up to leave, Sarah watched Luna, tired but content, resting her head on Sarah's lap. There was a quiet understanding between them, a sense that no matter what the future held, they had already shared something extraordinary. They had loved deeply and purely, and that love had filled their lives in ways words could never fully capture. Sarah couldn't predict what would come next, but she knew one thing for sure. She would cherish every moment they had left. They had faced the passage of time together, and through it all, their love had only grown stronger. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Sarah could feel the inevitable pull of time, yet there was something beautiful about it. Life had a way of moving forward, relentlessly, but it also had a way of showing you its softest, most tender moments when you least expected it. The warmth of a morning sunbeam, the quiet hum of evening cicadas, the gentle sound of Luna's purring as she lay beside Sarah in the evenings. These were the moments that began to define Sarah's world. A world that was no longer centered on the rush of her daily life, but on the gentle flow of love and companionship she shared with Luna. Their walks through the neighborhood had become slower, more deliberate. Luna's steps, once quick and full of youthful energy, had become steadier, more careful. Yet she still carried that same spark, the same spirit that had brought Sarah joy from the very first day they met. Sarah couldn't help but smile every time Luna perked up at a new scent, or tried to chase a butterfly with as much energy as she had when she was a kitten. There was an innocence in Luna's joy that reminded Sarah of the way she had once seen the world, before life became filled with responsibilities and endless obligations. On one particularly warm day, Sarah decided to take Luna on a trip to the park, a place that had witnessed so many of their shared adventures. As they strolled down the familiar path, Luna walked beside Sarah, her small body still holding that quiet energy that made everything feel new again. There were children playing in the distance, their laughter rising into the air like the sound of music. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves in the trees, and the scent of fresh grass filled Sarah's senses. She paused for a moment, looking at Luna with a mixture of love and bittersweet gratitude. Luna, still vibrant, but now a little slower, stopped to sniff the air, her head tilting curiously at the sounds of the world around her. Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her. Time had passed, yes, but in this moment it felt as though the world had stopped just for them, just for this quiet moment of connection. The bond they shared was so deep, so unbreakable that it transcended the passing of time. Sarah knew that nothing could ever truly take away what they had. And so, they spent the day together, wandering the park, sitting on the grass, and enjoying the simple pleasure of each other's company. Sarah watched as Luna lay down on the cool earth, eyes half closed in contentment, her body warm from the sun. She marveled at how something so small could bring such immense joy into her life, how Luna had taught her the importance of slowing down, of finding beauty in the quiet moments, and of living with a heart full of gratitude. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on all the years they had spent together. The memories of their earlier adventures, the ones filled with energy, excitement, and new discoveries, had taken on a deeper meaning now. They were no longer just moments of fun, but milestones in their journey, each one a reminder of how far they had come, of how much they had experienced together. Luna may not have been as spry as she once was, but the love they shared had only grown stronger. Every day, Sarah saw the depth of Luna's devotion in the way she looked at her, in the way she nuzzled into her lap when Sarah sat down, in the way she rested her head on Sarah's shoulder as if seeking comfort and offering it all at once. And Sarah, too, had changed. She had become someone who knew the value of patience, of living in the moment, and of appreciating every small act of kindness, every quiet moment spent with those we love. That evening, as they made their way back home, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The day had been perfect, filled with simple joys, quiet reflection, and the gentle reminder that life was fleeting, but love, true love, was eternal. Sarah didn't know how much longer she and Luna would have together, but she had learned one thing. They had lived, and would continue to live, with love in their hearts, and that was all that mattered. As the weeks passed, Sarah could feel the weight of time pressing gently on her heart. It wasn't something overt, something that knocked on her door with a loud, intrusive force. No, it was more subtle than that. It was in the quiet moments, the spaces between their shared breaths, the way Luna's pace had slowed ever so slightly. It was in the way Luna would rest her head more often, curling up in Sarah's lap or beside her on the couch, as if seeking comfort in the very presence of the one who had always been there for her. Yet, despite these small signs of aging, there was still a fire in Luna's eyes, a fire that reminded Sarah of their first days together. Luna had taught her that even when life's journey began to show its marks, it was never too late to keep living with passion, with joy, and with an open heart. They had been through so much together, through quiet moments of love and loud moments of laughter, through adventures and challenges that had tested their bond, but through it all, they had remained inseparable. One afternoon, as Sarah sat by the window, watching the sun dip low on the horizon, she thought back on the journey they had taken together. She remembered the day she first saw Luna, small and trembling, in the alleyway behind the market. Luna had looked up at her with such trust, such need, and in that moment Sarah knew that her life would never be the same. Luna had taught her the beauty of selfless love, the kind of love that asks for nothing in return, that simply exists to give. But now, as Luna grew older, Sarah began to realize something else. That love, as deep and unwavering as it was, also came with a sense of inevitable loss. Sarah knew that one day, perhaps sooner than she wanted to admit, Luna would be gone. It was a thought she tried to push away, to avoid, but it lingered in her mind. She couldn't ignore the truth forever. Still, Sarah wasn't ready to dwell on the sadness of that thought. Instead, she focused on what they had right now. What they had was this moment, this beautiful, fleeting moment of togetherness. And that was enough. On this particular evening, Sarah decided to take Luna on one of their favorite walks, down the winding path that led to the nearby woods. Luna, although slower now, still had a way of pulling Sarah along, as if she could sense the beauty of the world just beyond the trees. They walked in silence, side by side, as the golden light of the setting sun filtered through the branches, casting long shadows across the ground. Luna's steps were measured, but she still lifted her head, her nose twitching, as she took in the familiar scents of the earth. Sarah smiled softly, watching her. She had always loved how Luna seemed to find wonder in the simplest things, how she could be so fully present in every moment, as though it were the only one that mattered. As they reached the clearing, Sarah sat down on a large rock, and Luna settled beside her, her body leaning gently against Sarah's side. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink lower in the sky, its warm hues turning the world around them into a painting of soft pinks and purples. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the scent of pine and earth. In that moment, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace, a quiet acceptance of what was and what would come. She didn't need to rush. She didn't need to worry about the future. All that mattered was the here and now, the way Luna's soft fur felt against her skin, the way the world seemed to pause around them, and the love they shared. As the evening turned into night, they made their way back home, the stars beginning to twinkle in the sky above them. Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude, not just for the moments she had with Luna, but for everything Luna had taught her. How to slow down, how to appreciate the present, and how to love fiercely and without reservation. Though the road ahead was uncertain, Sarah knew that whatever came next, they had already shared something extraordinary. They had lived and loved and grown together in ways that words could never fully capture. And that was enough. The days continued to pass in their gentle rhythm. But with each passing day, Sarah became more aware of the inevitable. The way Luna's once lustrous fur had started to lose its shine, how her steps had grown more deliberate, less playful. Luna was aging, and though Sarah could not stop the march of time, she had learned to embrace it. It was a strange kind of love, the understanding that the moments they shared would one day end, but cherishing them even more because of it. One cool evening, as the leaves began to turn golden with the arrival of fall, Sarah noticed that Luna seemed unusually tired. She hadn't wanted to admit it, but she knew that Luna's energy was waning. The playful spark in her eyes had dimmed, and the spring in her step had slowed. Yet, as Sarah looked at her beloved companion, she also saw something else. A quiet dignity in the way Luna moved, a grace that only comes with age, with a life well lived. They sat together on the couch that evening, Sarah's hand gently stroking Luna's head as the television played softly in the background. Luna's head rested on Sarah's lap, her eyes half closed, content to simply be near her. The room was filled with an easy silence, the kind that only comes after years of shared moments. They didn't need to speak. They had learned to communicate in ways that words could never fully express. In this simple act of sitting together, there was a deep, unspoken connection. Sarah thought about the life they had built, the memories they had created over the years, the walks in the park, the trips to the beach, the lazy afternoons spent in each other's company. Every moment, no matter how small, had been a gift, and Sarah knew that those gifts would stay with her forever, even when the time came for Luna to leave. But that time had not come yet, and Sarah wasn't ready to face it. Not now. Instead, she focused on the present, the warmth of Luna's body against her, the soft sound of her breathing, the way Luna's fur felt under her fingers, Every touch, every movement, was a reminder of the bond they shared, of the love that had grown stronger with time. Later that night, Sarah took Luna outside for one of their quiet walks under the stars. The air was crisp, and the moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver glow over the world around them. As they walked down the familiar path, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of the night. The stars twinkled above them, a reminder of how vast and mysterious the universe was. And yet, in that moment, it felt like the world had narrowed down to just the two of them. Sarah and Luna, walking together through the quiet night. Luna walked beside her, slower now, but still filled with a quiet sense of purpose. She would pause every now and then to sniff at a flower or gaze up at the stars, as if trying to hold on to every fleeting moment. Sarah could see the wonder in Luna's eyes, and in that moment, she realized something profound. Luna, despite her aging body, was still as curious, still as alive as she had ever been. It was as if Luna had learned that there was no need to fear time. Instead, there was only the need to appreciate it, to savor every moment, no matter how small. They continued their walk, slowly, deliberately, savoring the silence between them, and for a brief moment, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace settle in her heart. The future could wait. Right now, all that mattered was this: the way the night air smelled, the way Luna's paws patted softly on the earth, the way they shared this time together, just as they had shared so many others. As they made their way back to the house, the stars still shining brightly above them, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had been given the gift of this time with Luna, and though she knew that one day the end would come, she would not focus on that. Instead, she would focus on the love, the joy, and the beauty that had filled their years together. Time might be fleeting, but love, Sarah had learned, was eternal. And so as she and Luna returned to the comfort of their home, Sarah knew that she had already received everything she had ever needed. The love of a companion who had changed her life, who had taught her the true meaning of living fully. Whatever the future held, they would face it together, one moment at a time. As the seasons shifted, bringing with them the colors and smells of autumn, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the passage of time. It had been a year since Luna had started to slow down, and though the changes were small at first, they had now become undeniable. Sarah watched as Luna's once vibrant energy had softened into the quietude of old age. There were moments when Sarah felt a deep sense of grief at the thought of losing her best friend. It was a grief that sat quietly in her chest, a lump in her throat that never quite went away. But through that grief, she also found gratitude. Gratitude for every moment they had shared, for every laugh, every quiet afternoon, every adventure that had become part of their story. Luna was lying on the floor beside her, curled into a tight ball, her breathing steady and calm. Sarah gently ran her fingers through Luna's soft fur, marveling at how something so simple could bring her so much comfort. Despite the passing years, Luna's presence was still a constant source of peace in Sarah's life. She had always been there, through every up and down, and the thought of life without her seemed unimaginable. On one particular afternoon, as the rain tapped softly against the windows, Sarah decided to take Luna on a walk, though it was more for Sarah than for Luna. She felt the weight of the days ahead and the heaviness in her heart that came with knowing their time together was limited. She wanted to create memories, to capture each moment, to preserve them in her heart for when the inevitable time came for Luna to leave. They wandered down the familiar path in the woods, the leaves crunching softly underfoot as they walked side by side. Luna's steps were slower now, but there was still something majestic about the way she moved, as if the world still held a sense of wonder for her. Sarah paused for a moment, taking in the beauty of the forest around them. The trees stood tall, their branches swaying gently in the wind, their leaves a fiery red, orange, and yellow. It was as though nature itself was giving them a gift, one last perfect day, one last perfect walk together. Luna stopped to sniff at a patch of wildflowers, her nose twitching with curiosity. Sarah smiled, watching her. Luna's love for the world had never faded, even as her body grew frail. She had always been a reminder to Sarah that life, no matter how difficult or uncertain, could still be beautiful, still be worth living. Luna had taught her the importance of seeing the world through curious eyes, of finding joy in the little things, like a wildflower, a moment of quiet, or the comfort of a shared walk with a loved one. As they continued their walk, Sarah felt the weight of time pressing down on her chest. She wanted to hold on to this moment, to freeze it in time. But life had a way of moving forward, whether they were ready or not. She couldn't stop it. But she could cherish the here and now. She could be present with Luna, in this moment, just as they had always been together. And she would hold on to that with everything she had. Later that evening, as they sat together in the quiet of their home, Sarah reflected on all that Luna had taught her. She had taught her how to love deeply, how to be brave in the face of life's uncertainties, and how to find peace in the midst of chaos. And as Sarah sat there holding Luna close, she realized that love, true love, was never about the length of time you had together. It was about the depth of the connection, the way two souls could intertwine and change each other forever. And so, Sarah made a promise to herself. No matter how much time they had left, she would never stop cherishing every moment, never stop loving Luna with all her heart. Because in the end, love was the most important thing they could give each other. And that was something that would never fade. Time, as it always does, continued its relentless march forward, and though Sarah knew that Luna's time was growing short, she found herself savoring each moment even more. The quiet evenings, the peaceful mornings, the sound of Luna's purring as she rested beside her, each of these small, everyday moments held more meaning than ever before. Sarah had learned not to fear the end, but to embrace the beauty of what they had. Because in the end, it wasn't the time they had together that mattered, it was what they did with it. One evening, as the last rays of the setting sun cast a warm glow across the room, Sarah sat beside Luna, who had made her way to the spot by the window where they had always watched the world together. Luna's body was frail now, but her spirit still shone through, her eyes still gleaming with the same curiosity, the same joy she had had from the very beginning. Sarah gently stroked her fur, a wave of emotion washing over her. She wasn't ready to let go, but she knew that sometimes love meant knowing when to let go. "Thank you, Luna," Sarah whispered, her voice thick with tears she hadn't allowed herself to shed before. "Thank you for everything, for all the adventures, for all the quiet moments, for teaching me what love really is." As if understanding, Luna nuzzled into Sarah's hand, her purring steady and rhythmic, like the heartbeat that had accompanied Sarah through so many years. In that moment, Sarah realized that love wasn't something you could hold on to forever. It wasn't something you could control. But it was something that stayed with you, even when the person or the animal you loved was no longer there. It was a part of you, woven into the fabric of your life, shaping who you were, who you had become. Luna had taught Sarah to live fully, to love fiercely, and to appreciate the small moments that make life so precious. The house was quiet now, save for the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Sarah knew that Luna's time was near, but instead of feeling the crushing weight of impending loss, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had been blessed with the gift of Luna's companionship, with the gift of unconditional love. And no matter what happened next, that love would live on within her as it always had. The last time they went for a walk together, the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the path they had walked countless times. It was quiet now, the world around them settling into the peaceful rhythm of evening. As they strolled side by side, Sarah realized that perhaps it was not about what was coming next. It was about this moment. This moment, right here, with Luna by her side, was everything. And when the time finally came, when Luna closed her eyes for the last time, Sarah would hold her close, knowing that their bond could never be broken, not by time, not by distance, not by anything. Love, she had learned, is eternal. And in this quiet, perfect moment, surrounded by the memories they had created together, Sarah felt more at peace than she ever thought possible. Because in the end, love is not about how long you have it. It's about how deeply you feel it, how fully you live it. And Sarah had loved Luna fully, with every fiber of her being, every ounce of her heart. And that was something no amount of time could ever take away.